we are in a transformational period
Yeah.
within technology, like something that's maybe bigger than the internet, definitely bigger than the mobile revolution, definitely more real than crypto stuff. No shade to the crypto folks out there, but just in terms of the impact and
Right.
spend. And if you're in this time, you're not necessarily starting your career now, and you're not native to these tools, you have to use them. Of white collar job security is over.
Welcome back, Rush Hour Podcast. I'm TW. This is Justin. Once again, two non-technical guys in the tech space talking all the latest updates. We got earnings. We got a lot of earnings to talk about. Some layoffs, a robot in the works, like in the mix. Like we got a lot to start. Let's start. Where do you want to start? Let's do earnings. What do you think?
Yeah, let's start with earnings. This was a huge week of kind of major company Mag 7 earnings. You had Meta and Apple and Google and Microsoft and Amazon all reporting within a short span of time. And this
Yep.
is all because it contributes such like a high percentage of the overall S&P gains, like I think over 30%. This is obviously important time where analysts and consumers and everybody else is saying, hey, how well are these companies doing? How well are the bets playing off? The TLDR is that these companies are all crushing it for the most part. Even Meta, which stock dropped, I think it was like 7 or 8% yesterday
Yeah.
after the reporting, but that was just because of like a one-time charge of $15 billion as part of the new big beautiful bill and some funky tax stuff that was going on there. They're not going to have those charges in the future, is my understanding. And that took their earnings per share down from about $7 to around $1 when the street thought it would be around $6. So that was kind of like where the main hit was coming from there. But let me go through each of them just quickly, kind of give a high level. So, with Meta, they're aggressively building for super intelligence. They're doing a lot of stuff on their team there, shaking up things a bit too, which we'll get to when we talk about layoffs. That's kind of like they're thinking of spending even more money in 2026, like 70 to 72 billion in AI spend next year. But listen, at the end of the day, Meta has their cash cow, the best performance marketing platform that's ever existed. And my understanding, and in the customers that I work with, like that hasn't changed. So I think they're still going to be able to turn that spigot on. Amazon, crazy blowout earnings. Their shares jumped 12% to $180 billion in revenue for the quarter, like $1.95 earnings per share. AWS going crazy, as well as ads. I think their ads revenue jumped 24% quarter over quarter. And that's the biggest piece. As long as AWS is doing really well and strong, that's going to be able to, supplant any of the investment that they're making on the AI side. Google, again, this is just going to be a list of blowouts, but Google had their first ever $100 billion quarter. Profit was up 33%. The stock price was up 6%. Ad revenue hit 74 billion, and their cloud was up 34%. There are some things going on with Google in terms of legal cases and trying to break up some of the elements of kind of search monopoly and ad stuff, but that won't be solved till next year. So we'll wait till then. And just quickly on Google, also, Gemini now has 650 million users, and their CEO is calling this an expansionary moment. And then last two, Microsoft, big cloud flex from their team. Azure grew 40%, which is extending its lead in AI enterprise adoption. They're spending a lot of money on AI, but they can because of the investments that they've made in OpenAI and just adoption for Copilot and Azure among enterprises. So a lot of the investor tone is that these are the adults in the room. This is a very disciplined, profitable business, and they have the clearest path to monetization among the players. And then finally, Apple. Apple, slight miss on iPhone sales, but a record services revenue on 30 billion. I think that Cook is claiming that their best quarters are yet to come. There are some supply constraints in the Asian market, specifically China, but that is rebounding. And noticeably, they have been a bit more silent on the AI side, but their market cap is over 4 trillion, and they don't need to shout AI from the rooftops in order to print cash. So overall, a lot of investment into AI infrastructure from all these players. They're doing really well. We've seen some pops within the NASDAQ overall market. and the AI trade is still on. If you were kind of watching this as a signal, the AI trade is still on. But did you have any thoughts on the companies? Are we being a bit overzealous here? How are you feeling?
No, it seems like, and it just keeps going up and up. I don't know where the end is for this, right? It's like this is another earnings where it's like, all right, AI is continuing to grow and grow, and it's like hitting all-time highs, and companies are laying off, and we'll talk about that. And it's like, what? Yeah, what is the signal here? Is this a giant bubble? Is this not? We've talked about it before. It doesn't feel as bubblicious as others because there are real numbers behind this, and the efficiencies seem real. But I think, yeah, I'm still excited, but maybe that's the time to not be greedy and
Yeah,
take a step back. But it seems like all signs point to positivity at the moment when it doesn't feel politically like that, but we'll see.
yeah. I think, generally right now we're in a market where if you look at, if you, I don't know, maybe it's a bit cynically or just like kind of just, is what it is. But if you're in the room and you're deal making and you're with Trump and he's feeling you, then I feel like you're good
I
right
know
now.
it's your place.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
you know what I mean? And there's nothing that's necessarily going to blow things up. Now, my question is, and I don't think the other stuff that's going on for the other parts of the economy, like the shutdown and reduction of SNAP benefits and air traffic controllers not having jobs, that doesn't affect these tech guys. So
right,
that doesn't seem to be affecting the overall market, at least in terms of the companies that are representing the lion's share of where the gains are coming from. So
right.
there's really this decoupling between what's going on Main Street and Wall Street, which I don't know is necessarily good. I don't want people losing benefits and all this other stuff. But in terms of the impact on the tech players and their ability to continue to make investments, I don't see that as necessarily affecting it right now. So I need to see some major kind of earnings slowdown
Right.
happening.
Right.
And it doesn't seem like that's going to happen right now, but you never know.
Yeah, everyone's looking for that signal of here's an excuse to pull back, and we haven't seen it. These companies continue to show growth, and it makes sense. Like, more, you hear it every day. I hear AI in more regular conversations than I ever have. So I think it still feels like we're in this early mode of discovery for AI, and growth is a part of that, right? In that early
Yeah.
phase, all these companies are trying to figure it out, and they've got these moats, but then they're adding AI on top, and um, this is definitely an interesting time. But what about the layoffs? Where are we at with that? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah. So, more sobering tone, but there were two of those companies we just talked about. Two had layoffs in the last, or reported that they'll be, laying off a number of people over the next few weeks. So Amazon is cutting 14,000 of their employees, which I think is like the second most they've cut at a single time. I think maybe in 2022 they cut almost 30K. It was like one of the single biggest times. This is the next one, but I think more cuts are coming there. And then Apple, I'm sorry, not Apple, but Meta is also cutting 600 folks from its AI division, which is where a lot of the investment was, which is very interesting. But they're cutting people as well. And at least on the Amazon side, what they're saying is, hey, they just posted $180 billion in sales. But Andy Jassy, the CEO, says, hey, this isn't about money. This is about the culture. They're trying to create a culture where they move faster and think smaller and are like a startup again. And, they want to do this restructuring before AI is in full swing. And maybe there is something to getting back into founder mode and, these companies come bloated, et cetera. But I think more so than that, listen, we have to invest in AI infrastructure. We have to invest in being able to acquire these chips. They are very expensive. And in order to do that, we have to reduce our operating costs elsewhere in the business. And what does that mean? That means reducing headcount, and
Yeah.
signaling to the street and people. And so this will continue to happen. We've literally been talking about this since we started the pod,
Yep.
of all the layoffs that are happening and how this would be accelerating. And this was a new trend. This is just a new reality. And it's playing out. It's playing out exactly like that. And I'm not happy about it as somebody who's spent my career in tech. And it pains me to kind of see all the people going through the layoffs and stuff. But it's just the reality of the situation we're in now.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it is makes sense, especially in a big org like Amazon, and they're trying to get more horizontal with everything. You're just going to end up cutting more people, especially with the advent of AI and how it can help and make people more efficient. They're just redundancy, or a lot of it. I heard, I saw posts where like HR and some other things were more affected than others in the warehouse. There are some areas that they just felt like they were, there's a lot of redundancy. So that's, yeah, it's unfortunate. But of the people that I've talked to that work at Amazon and Twitch, none were impacted. So, those are generally roles in BD and, um, marketing and all of those. None of those our friends there were impacted. So that's a great sign. So shout out to those guys for surviving.
I know. So what do you think? Like, how do you, if you were in the situation now, we're at one of these larger tech players, and we both spent, a good portion of our careers at larger companies as well, and you're one now. How would you like? How do you think about navigating this time? How should people be playing in? What kind of signals should we be looking for? What, yeah, what's your advice if you have any?
I think it's about how much does AI help my job, and just being honest with it, right? Like I think most people can see it coming. Like, hey, AI really helps make me more efficient, or AI could do my job. If you're realistic about it, then you probably know, and you should start looking or making yourself really educated on the AI front, being in the tools and understanding. I think a lot of the companies now have AI ambassadors for departments. You should raise your hand for that if you're out there looking at like, hey, how do I stay ahead of this? That is one thing, and I told you what I did when we were always talking about AI is going to take over my job. I was like, all right, fine. I'm going to move a lot of my 401k. I'm going to move a lot of my dollars of the stuff that I pulled back on during the election. I moved it into
Hmm.
AI, and that really paid off, right? Because definitely made more on that front than my job. So I think that's really helpful to look at it from all the angles, right?
Yeah,
If you're like, hey, this AI thing is really going to take over my job, I need to learn that and invest in it, and then I'll make it work on both sides of that table. I would go that route.
yeah.
What would you do?
I think I generally agree. I think this is just a time for upskilling too.
Yeah.
It's hard. We're both parents. We got
Yep.
stuff going on outside. Working, but we are in a transformational period
Yeah.
within technology, like
Yeah.
something that's maybe bigger than the internet, definitely bigger than the mobile revolution, definitely more real than crypto stuff. No shade to the crypto folks out there, but just in terms of the impact
Right.
and spend. And if you're in this time, you're not necessarily starting your career now, and you're not native to these tools. You have to use them. You have to use them. You have to do it in your time, like in your free time. You have to learn the tools. You have to understand how they work, because I don't think that I don't think these AI tools are necessarily going to replace everyone. Although I think there are some industries that will be really impacted. But basically, you're going to be replaced by someone who's just using the tools and more
A little
efficient than you.
better. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think you just need to be conversant. You need to read. You need to follow along what's happening. And because as these layoffs are happening, et cetera, when you're trying to find a new job, people are going to ask you, hey, which of these tools are you using? What is your proficiency with them? And if you like, oh, I can do the other job that I did at the pre AI, in the pre AI boom, that's likely not enough.
Right.
And it seems a little harsh, but I think it's just a reality.
Yeah. You're gonna have to utilize that to the maximum of your ability. So it's not just doing your job for you; it's enhancing all the things you can do, and that's probably the line you need to trust your friend more than your foe. And I
Yeah.
know a lot of people look at it like, "Hey, using it is cheating, or using it is, um, replacing myself." But no, it's
Yeah.
enhancing what you're doing. So I think looking at it that way might help you in your career.
Yeah, and maybe one last piece on this. I did a post on LinkedIn recently where kind of where I kind of postulated that, hey, the era of white collar job security is over, right? Or at least it is within the tech space. It was a more mature stage. Companies at the same time you have AI, and it's like that's a burgeoning industry. But do you agree with me? Do you think the era is kind of over? Do you think we're kind of at like that height of tech? Do you think it can go higher? Where do you think we are in the cycle?
Yeah, I feel that way, but it's also like I'm in a different, like you said, we have kids now and, families, and you have priorities, but there is this feeling of that, you can't feel secure. Things are changing so fast, that you can become irrelevant very quickly, more so than ever. But
Yeah.
yeah, it definitely feels like I'm on edge all the time, and maybe that's just natural paranoia. But I think it's really going to be hard to say I got a cushy job that I don't need to worry about. Like that seems not possible nowadays, right? If you have
Yeah.
a cushy job, you should be looking behind your head on a swivel.
I don't think it exists anymore, at least within tech. I don't think a cushy job exists. I think you have to be, especially if you're a people manager, especially like where we are, like kind of mid senior folks, you
Yeah,
got to be a player coach
yeah,
or it's scary hours.
yeah. It is. I imagine there are people out there, especially if you're like an entrepreneur, that are pushing the boundaries, and still feel really comfortable and good. But I think it's really tough. It's probably few and far between.
Yeah.
I know most people I know that are working at it all feel like I'm gonna get railroaded at some point, so they're a little
Hmm.
more on top of it than I think everyone's just a little more cautious right now, right? And
Yeah.
it's fair. I mean, yeah, it's been that way for a while. I feel like though, even
Yeah.
right before, it's probably since COVID, it's always felt like there's this looming.
Hmm.
Hey, well, I better be on my best behavior, otherwise I'm gonna, lose my job, or I'm gonna be mixed out. It just, I don't know. Maybe that's just me, again, paranoia, but it feels that way. Post
No,
COVID,
I think that's,
it just felt like I haven't been like nothing. You're on this. I don't want to say eggshells, but it just doesn't feel right.
yeah. I think it's, companies are no longer treated as growth stage companies like the behemoths, right? They're more mature. And so when they're not considered growth, then they're not necessarily growing. And frankly, they probably looking back and say, man, we overextended over the last few
Yep.
years.
Yep.
And I've said this a million times. If you listen to the pod for a while, you've probably heard me say this. Everybody saw what Elon did with Twitter, and they
Yep.
reduced it by 70%. And that company is still humming. And so that is a new model.
I remember me and
These
you
companies
used
going to
to said
strive
that
for.
back in the day. Remember when we were coming to the office and we were looking around, and we were trying to drum up growth and do all these things, but we turned around like, you know what? If you just got rid of 90% of these people, we would still be fine. And that was scary to think about, like, because it was
Yeah.
like, oh, like people, they're keeping us around to grow, not because they're nice. You got to grow. But if you didn't want to grow, and you just wanted to be a cash cow, you could just maintenance mode and then you move on.
Yeah.
Which
That's right.
I don't know if we're going to get there, but it seems like at some point we are. Like a lot of companies are going to come to the realization and say, you know what? I'm just going to milk this, plug in AI and put this thing on maintenance mode, and then a lot of people get laid off. I mean,
Yeah.
that's in the mix. That's in the mix. All right.
It's definitely a mix.
Last topic. You want to jump in?
Yeah. So a lot of
Robot.
you, yeah, some of you may or may not seen the viral video that's going around the Neo robot, which is like, just to describe you what Neo is in case you haven't seen it. It's this 5'6", 66-pound humanoid robot with a 4-hour battery life that can essentially live at home with you and help you with chores. Or at least this is what it's purported to be able to do, right? Laundry, dishes, watering plants. And guess what? It also self-charges. Now, it's a pretty penny to get this. What does it cost? $500 a month for a subscription or $20,000 to own. And so, for any of you who've seen this video, maybe we'll kind of like throw up on the screen what the robot looks like, the Neo robot. The demo looked amazing. The demo looked like the futuristic Justin's like, hey, it's here. But the reality is not necessarily that that's the case. So uh, MKBHD did a video recently about, hey, is this robot actually legit? I mean, this looks insane. Is this actually legit? And I essentially all the shots, other than two in that viral video, were the robot being remotely controlled by someone on their team. So when it's washing dishes or when it's watering, I think the only two times that it was operating autonomously was when it was going up to the door and pulling the door handle open, and then when it went and grabbed the cup out of the guy's hand on the couch,
Right.
and he walked away. And basically, it's kind of like, listen, I think it's great. We live in Silicon Valley. We've been here for a long time. We like being in a place of the world where people are working on bleeding edge technology, and that gets us excited, right? That's kind of why to be out there. You know,
Yeah.
this is the Wild West, and we're all trying to figure out how to create these outsized business models and outcomes, et cetera. But the reality is this robot don't really work like that.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
it's just like a pre-order. So we do marketing. There's something about like driving hype and awareness around a product, and then there's something else around actually delivering on the value. So, if you were running this GTM, how would you have done this differently? Would you have kind of played it the same way to drive like intrigue and hype, or how do you evaluate their approach?
I mean, it was pretty deceiving based on what I saw. And it seems like they are really selling a dream more than any company I've seen. You've heard of those. I mean, the Tesla iRobot event, I've heard some of those are remote controlled as well.
Yep.
But this is like you're selling a robot and all the features are fake. That is pretty wild. Like
Yeah.
even back, you watch those Steve Jobs documentaries, like some of them may not have been perfect. For the most part, the product that came out had those features, and this seems like a massive beta early look, and then them faking the whole thing and just hoping that we're gonna buy it and they'll figure it out. That's what it felt
Yeah.
like to me.
Yeah.
That we're selling a dream. This is what the dream looks like. You can buy it, and maybe we'll get there, maybe we won't. That's kind of what it felt
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. It seems like more like a novelty to have in the house. Like if you want
Yeah,
to just when your guests come, have a robot pop
right,
up and open the door for them, and there's something interesting about that. Then maybe
right.
that's worth the cost right now. I think the other piece is in order for them to get the training that's necessary to get it to the next level, like this thing needs to be in your house. You need to be sending this
Yep.
data back to the company. I mean, the privacy piece around that, I hadn't really thought about that as much. I always think about it within the context of my phone, but not necessarily that the robot is collecting data on you
Yeah,
and can see everything that's going on in
yeah,
your house and that's going to the companies.
yeah. That's
And
crazy.
as cool as the robot is very invasive.
That
You
is
know,
really
it's
that's as
it's like
as it gets.
as invasive as it could get. And
Yeah,
I
it
sometimes
is.
feel like, Bezos and the fam through my Echo are just listening to all my stuff there. I can only imagine if I'm waking up and a robot's hovering over my face like this
Yeah,
while I'm breathing.
he's
And
awake. Let's
he's
go.
like, you know,
No, it is.
um,
It is freaky to think about. Well, not only that, the layout of your house, what you do on a routine basis, like all those things are now being fed into an algorithm and recorded potentially. That's really scary. That's really
yeah.
scary. But
What do you
but
think? Is it worth it though? Like,
that's the
you get,
thing,
like, let's say you
right?
could afford it. Let's say money wasn't an object. Would you get it? Would you spend 20K?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, that seems like a dream state. Yes, maybe if it was actually able to do those things, but I would not want to be the first person to get this robot. Right? It just doesn't feel like, um, as much as I wanted to pick up my glass of water and put it back in the dishwasher, like it's not that serious. Like I haven't got to that point. But I can imagine a world where one day, yes, you need this, but right now, no. This seems like I don't want to be the guinea pig that puts my data and everything at risk, and this animal looking thing is walking around. It's so bizarre. I
Is
can't wrap my head around it. But
Yeah. And that's the chicken and the egg piece, right? Because they need it
yeah, they
in
need it,
people's homes
right?
to be doing hundreds, if not thousands of hours, if
Yep,
not millions of hours of tasks so they can kind of understand all the edge cases.
yep.
But
So
relative to where the
is this one
technology
of
is,
those
then
things where it's going to be free for like, hey, we need to get these robots out there. We're going to deliver them to a bunch of people and get the data back and then sell it? Or is it going to be this is the route. You sell it at a high dollar, early adopters try it, you get a bunch of data. The people that want to get whatever feel cool and for having their first robots.
yeah.
And then that's how we get this thing off the ground.
I, I
That's
mean,
one route to go, I guess.
I guess that I guess that is a route. I mean, them sending it to people's homes, like at the end of the day, I'm sure they've raised a bunch of venture funding. They just need to get it in as many hands as possible. I think they're going kind of the more premium route
Yeah.
that like Tesla did in order to kind of create intrigue around
Seems
it and
like
just try to get people who
industrial
are.
use. I don't know. Industrial use seems like the route to go at first, where it's in a warehouse doing things, not interacting with people, but like picking up a bunch of
Mhm.
boxes and putting them away and sweeping the like doing the task, but really just for themselves as
Yeah,
opposed to for people. Seems like the route to go, right? Like that they'll probably learn a lot that way, and then eventually make their way into homes. But
yeah.
starting in the home is wild. Like holy cow! Like
But it's such a competitive space. Like some people have to go direct to consumer as opposed to
yep.
doing those
No, I
more
get it.
industrial use cases,
Yeah.
right?
I mean,
So
they essentially were like, "This is coming. We're just gonna be first to market and figure it out, and hope we can be like movers advantage, and hopefully we'll learn enough, and people can't catch up." That's my guess. That was
yeah,
probably the strategy, right? Like, let's just get this thing out the door, and we'll learn enough, and we'll be so far ahead that it'll be harder for anyone else. Which I totally understand that logic, right? Because you're
yeah,
like you said, you're gonna learn so much by just having these things in people's homes
yeah.
that it's going to be hard for other people to replicate.
I mean, if they get 100 sold, that's 2 million in revenue, right? Booked,
Yeah,
right? Like if it.
yeah,
So, are there 100 people on X who are early adopters and are willing to check stuff
probably.
out and will make some videos of it and stuff like that? Then maybe that's worth it. And I feel like relative to us talking about it now and how many impressions they've gotten, maybe they can get to that. And maybe that's the learning. It's just like what is the level of intrigue? Maybe they're probably even getting insights by people talking about it,
Yeah,
right? So like
yeah,
there's data that you're getting on the market and product market fit without them actually having to even release something, which I think is interesting. Now the question is when it gets delivered to people's actual doors and they get those first real reviews from actual,
right,
are they willing to kind of are those people willing to kind of go on the multi-year journey where
right.
this thing is actually relevant? That's
I mean,
the
for
that's the
me,
next question.
the killer features are really the how that can it replace a lot of the daily, not even daily, weekly like housekeeping chores. If it can kind of do that on its own while I'm not home, and that saves you however you pay, how much you pay for your housekeeping service.
Yeah.
Maybe then, like, hey, if you're talking about cleaning all the bathrooms and the toilets, showers, and then wipe the floor, vacuuming, putting the dishes away, and you do it, and they can do that 2 or 3 times a week, and you're saving 100, $200 a week. Maybe I like it. Maybe
It's got to actually, it's just got to work. It
gotta
has to
actually do it.
actually be able to do it.
Right? It
I
can't.
felt bamboozled. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't
Okay,
realize that literally all of that was remote.
but I
And,
do
and I don't.
remember.
Yeah,
The first iRoomba iRobot thing was terrible, and now it's great. Like both of us speak about ours like it's great. I love it because I
yeah,
don't have
it's
to.
amazing.
It's not the perfect vacuum, but it like gets the job done. And I can
Yeah,
imagine a world where having a robot in your home doing those things, even if they're kind of half-assed, is better than not having it. And if you can get it down to a couple $100 a month, and that replaces my housekeeping, yeah, maybe.
yeah,
I mean, I can start to at least justify it a little more. But the
yeah.
privacy thing is a whole nother animal, though. It's like, oh
It's the
god,
private. Yeah,
no.
the privacy
Yeah,
piece. I hadn't really thought as much about it that, but that to me that almost like if I had the money to just do that and it was like it's just like a novelty thing, I'd still be worried about the privacy and the data and how that shared back because
I
that's
mean,
the
it's
most
way more
intimate
invasive.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
then
way more invasive and intimate.
having a maid housekeeping service come to your house, it's still like an invasion of privacy. I mean, when they come, it feels awkward, but not at the scale of a company running it and storing it somewhere. That feels
Hmm.
not as cool. Like it's harder to get over that, right? Like you
Yeah,
know, a lady comes or a guy comes in a van. Yes, they get to see where all your stuff is and da da da, but it just feels like it's limited to those people.
yeah. If I if I was like if I had an audience and I was doing really well and I was like a YouTuber, a Twitch streamer, etc., it could be worth getting one of these
Yeah,
human
for the
robots for the content.
Yeah.
I think for the content could be very interesting and see all the different scenarios and stuff that was going on. I think like you maybe even recoup the investment
Not
on
on our
that.
channel, but yes.
Yeah, not here yet. Although, maybe at
One
some
day.
point. But yeah, I think maybe that play could work, but otherwise that's actually probably what I would have done. Like in terms of like a GTM, I probably would have gone some of them for free to content creators. And
Yes.
maybe they're already doing this. Um, put them in their homes, just kind of like have an evergreen Twitch channel where it's kind of, constantly streaming
Yes.
within
I
that
love that.
place, or just having even taking that robot like out of the home and having to walk around with them and interact with people and just keep driving more impressions, just stay top of mind. I think that play could work, at least in terms of kind of staying top of mind versus the competitors. Because I feel like there's actually a lot of humanoid companies right
Yeah.
now. We
Yeah.
don't talk about them all the time, but if you use the momentum of this, like now I know about Neo, right? I know about Optimus and Neo, maybe a few others. If you use that sustained momentum by doing very
Yeah.
strategic partnerships on the creator side, that could maybe be a long-term strategy that could work.
Yeah, they're I mean, I always felt like robotics is going to be far behind AI. Like the software is going to come before the advancements are coming before the hardware, just because of the complications, like we said. But yeah, I also invest in like bots and some of the other sort of ETF funds that are consolidating all the robot technology. I love that stuff. I think it's really neat. Um, but yeah, I don't know where we ultimately end up with it, but I feel like it's going to be way farther behind than AI. That
Yeah.
seems the most logical. We'll see though.
Yeah.
I do want a robot one day, just not now.
Oh, just that would be amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
either the robots are going to be wiping your butt or your kids, and I think the kids will
Right.
prefer it to be the
Right.
robots. So,
We got a bunch of comments. We talked about it a while ago, and we got a bunch of comments on like why, because me and you went back on the form factor of it being a human felt, and lots of people were like, "What are you talking about? It has to be the shape of a human. That's the most efficient." Da da da. Like, I thought that was really interesting. I think there was like 4 or 5 comments, which was more
yeah,
than we normally get. That were like, "Yes, of course, that's the basic functionality. Human. It should be human."
yeah.
Um, but I don't think that's true. I think an octopus. I mean, 8 legs are better than 2. So,
All right, you heard it here first, everybody.
I'm just
Let's say
saying.
on the next Octo. I feel like that's what you got to do. You got to have this new humanoid robot. It's not actually humanoid. It just looks like something completely different, and then you
Yeah,
can
if it's like
capture the
my
zeitgeist.
thought was like why limit it to like having more arms and able to do things, and it seems more um I don't know in terms of
I
behavior.
I
I
don't
don't.
disagree with you. I just think maybe for humans, just it might just look too freaky.
We just want something that looks like us for a comfort standpoint.
I
Maybe
think at least initially. I think at
yeah,
least initially.
I just think from an efficiency standpoint, having something with a bunch of like arms and legs and extensions that can do all the things at once seems better to me. But I could be tripping.
Yeah. All right, we got to design it using
I'm
one of
with
these AI tools, design and then send it out, and that'll be the next robot we see.
the octopus. It's an alien. Anyway, we'll talk next week. Maybe we'll talk Alien Atlas. You know, I think it's called Atlas AI.
Yeah,
Interstellar. Maybe 3I or something. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk that. Anyways,
I'm down.
happy Halloween, man. I'll
Happy
talk.
Halloween, brother. Talk soon. Peace.